Hello, VJ.
Hi, Lee. How are you?
Good. You're gonna make me giggly this morning. It's been a couple of years since I've heard your voice.
Oh, yeah.
Are you where are you physically?
I'm doing a project in Mississippi.
Oh, okay. All right.
It's in the area of plant floor automation.
Oh, okay.
Um,
Yeah. I was born in Mississippi. Born in
uh,
Macomb. Yeah, Macomb, Mississippi. So I don't. I've spent enough time north that that my southern drawl doesn't come out. It only comes out when I try to say boil peanuts. Speaking of, have you had boiled peanuts?
no, I should try them. I sometimes I see them at the gas stations.
Oh yeah.
And which city in Mississippi were you born in?
Macomb. I'll spell it out. That said, my parents ended up moving away up to South Dakota after I was about a year old. So I did live in Louisiana for a while as well, but
Uh-huh.
so there's some backwoods, there's some redneck in me, I suppose. Nice. For everyone else that's on the call as well, if you've not had boiled peanuts, well, they're a little bit fatty just because peanuts, I think nuts in general are, but oh man, they're so good. Okay, let's get the meeting minutes, link to the meeting minutes. We've got folks active inside there, so that's great. Meeting minutes. And we'll give let's wait one more minute for some others to join. Let's fill in the rest of the meeting minutes in the meantime.
You put together quite a nice group, Lee. Congratulations.
Hey, it's the dad jokes. I think that's what it is. It's all the funny jokes on the community meeting. No, thanks for that, VJ. I've been really lucky to connect with pretty much all the folks that are on the call here. Some of them are like more or less in some respects kind of graduating from the program, if you will. And three of them are called out in the meeting minutes, and those guys did it right. They're doing well. Yeah, no, so I guess I'll write a few more things. So we had a meetup last night. Held here in Austin. It was the introduction to Network Service Mesh, which is a CNCF project. And it's one of the service meshes that we have, that Meshery has an adapter for, Network Service Mesh. So grab this. Okay. Get the link. All right. Okay. We're 6 minutes after. Let's kick off the call. Very good to see all familiar faces. So right now I don't. VJ, remind me, have you been able to join a Friday call? And if so, were you given a chance to kind of introduce to the rest of the community?
Yes, this the week before last.
Okay.
I think you were just coming back from a trip.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. Out in. Okay. Good. Well, what is it? It's Friday the 21st. Just a couple of quick announcements, I think, and then let's get into some topics. Last night we had the Cloud Native Austin meetup. We're fortunate in that one of the service meshes that Meshery supports, network service mesh, the core maintainer of that project lives here in Austin, Texas as well. Ed Warnicki, he's a distinguished engineer at Cisco. He came over and presented at last night's meetup, and so I dropped a link to that meetup in the community meeting minutes. Went well. The executive director of the CNCF came out for a visit as well, and Pratik came to the meetup. So many of you know Pratik Sahu, who's in the community. Pratik is a PhD candidate at UT Austin, and he and Pranav are a couple of PhD students that have done early research on the performance aspect of Meshery and how it's measuring performance. So anyway, last night's meetup was successful in that regard. Let me share the meeting minutes, because I think one of the first topics, one of the topics in here is we're going to talk about Pratik and some of his work and how we're going to show that at KubeCon EU. But I guess in advance of that, it's time to say congratulations to Anand, Nikhil, and Subham. Guys landed some internships. I'm not sure what lies you told them in the interview, but it worked.
Yeah, totally. For me, and I guess for all of us, it worked, and all credit goes to the community, and also our little bit to the college also. But yeah, all credit goes to Nepal. Yeah.
No. I think we're missing a very key ingredient in that the credit giving. And that would be you guys. So actually, for some of you who are newer to the community, the three gentlemen that you see pictured in the meeting minutes are some of the longest standing members within the Layer 5 community. And so it tickles me that these guys are going off to do an internship this summer. So that's fantastic. There are any number of you on the call that have been interested in Google Summer of Code and the internships that go on there. So an update on that. Google Summer of Code, if you're not familiar, is just it's a global program put on by, or mostly sponsored and organized by Google, that facilitates open source projects connecting with open source contributors, actually students in specific, and facilitating an internship program. Layer 5 as an organization had submitted in 2019 and wasn't accepted. We've submitted in 2020 and we were not accepted this year either. Those notifications were sent out yesterday. Let me take a note. So Layer 5 as an organization not directly accepted to Google Summer of Code. Now, that's not going to stop us from participating under the CNCF flag. CNCF.org. That also isn't going to stop us from engaging, hopefully with a limited number, but with a few of you on internships directly through Layer 5. And I know, and so just to speak to that, because it's kind of a topic of interest, hopefully ongoing interest for a few of you, is that if you're optimizing for either internship through GSOC or internship through Layer 5, let's work with me, I guess, in specific about identifying what that work might look like, what some of your goals and passions are. Hopefully, and let's draw up what we think that a potential internship would look like, what we think that should be accomplished there. For those, I guess I would say to increase your chances of that happening, or our chances of being successful, what you want to do is, not only do we want to outline what that work will be, but we're going to want to make sure that you're as engaged as possible now, and getting as familiar as possible with the code base, and so that you can be successful heading into an internship. So. Okay, any comments or questions on those announcements? Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So a little bit about KubeCon EU. Who's all going to KubeCon EU? I asked that so that Nuno can get really excited.
Of course, you are asking that for me, and yes, I got my sponsorship to go to KubeCon EU.
Nice. That's awesome.
No, I'm really happy. I could find a way through it. I'll contact you later on, more for Monday. So I will be with my partner in arms that you met during DockerCon a long time ago.
Yeah.
So I will try to bring him to Meshery. He's a Windows guy also, so I'm trying to take over now.
Yeah. That's good.
And yeah, for Monday though, we didn't subscribe to anything, any day zero. I don't know which one you will be participating in. So we might either go Nigel training, especially more for, let's say, him, or we might go your way. But okay, it needs to be like either free entrance or we got some tickets somehow.
Nice. Okay.
We are just two, right? So
sure. So there's actually what's interesting is just the sheer number of service mesh centric things. So I didn't even see this until just now. So there's a bunch of, for those of you who haven't been to KubeCon before, and by the way, for those of you who have been working in the community long enough, if you're doing good work here, I will put you on stage somewhere, unless you don't want me to. And it's actually the first one that's happening to is Pratik. Pratik joined just before anyone else on this call had. So Pratik's a PhD candidate here in UT Austin, and so he some of his research is going to be presented. So we'll talk about that, but anyway, interesting. So if you haven't been before, then it's, if I recollect, it's probably a 3-day event. There's a 4th day that's tacked on to the front of the conference. It's called Day 0, and there are any number of co-located events listed here. And so Meshery was presented actually at NSMCon this last time in San Diego. We'll see if it's presented at Service Mesh Con. The papers are still being reviewed. And so yeah, Nuno will have to some of that's TBD in terms of where I will be on Monday. Last time we had 2 presentations on day 0, so we'll,
All right. So we will arrive like late Sunday, so I will not join any rejects or nothing on Sunday.
yes.
And then Monday we might have like a free day, kind of, depending on if we found something interesting to do or at our level. Interesting, everything is interesting at some point in time, but at our level, yeah. So I'll check also with the CNAP people if what they are doing, or even Microsoft.
Nice. Okay. Good. We'll try to. There's a couple of other community members actually. I think so. Sergio or Mendez, are you on the call? Senor Mendez. I should make a note that he's going as well. So. And then there was another community member. I can't remember now. But we may have to coordinate to make sure everybody catches up. Oh, actually, I remember. It's Kush. I think Kush is gone. So, and then good. And then actually, it looks like Garish.
Lee.
Yeah.
Sorry. Do you have the power maybe just to mute the phone vibrating?
I guess.
No. Okay. It stopped. Okay. No problem.
And VJ, if you end up being too popular of an individual, you'll have to mute occasionally. But I'll stop presenting now, actually, because I think Garish, if you're on, if you want to take the helm.
Hello.
Good morning.
Hey guys. I'm sorry, I was stuck with something, hence I had to join a bit late. How are you guys doing?
Three. Yeah.
Hey. Excellent. So looks like we have some interesting news this week, which is Lee already had that on the main page. Congrats to the 3 students, Nikhil, Anand, and Shubham. It's great that you guys found a great internship with Red Hat. That's phenomenal. I'm not sure, since I joined a bit late, and I thought this is the opportunity for me to actually, congratulate you guys. And I'm pretty sure, we would have actually spoken about this before I joined.
No, yeah, and we're.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You can't say it enough, though.
That's true. Yeah, excellent, guys. All right. So. The usual things. Do you guys has everybody written their names in the attendee list in the community meeting minutes? If not, please feel free to. I think we already has shared the link in Slack. I had a weird episode with Slack. Anyways, cool. So great. So that's fantastic. We have some new members today. Vijay, is this your first week? Okay.
You know what? He actually introduced them just a little bit earlier, and
cool. Yeah, I'll not go inside. I just wanted to see if this was his first time. So all right. Are there any other new members who haven't introduced themselves? I know I joined probably 10 or 15 minutes late, so I might have missed that. But are there any other guys who joined and who haven't yet introduced themselves to the rest of the team here?
Mr. Kumar, Mr. Nitin Kumar.
Oh, okay. Hey Nitin, do you want to speak up and introduce yourself? Of course, I'm sorry. That's what I meant.
Yep, he looks like he's got some audio challenges at the moment.
Gotcha. Oh, Naveen, sure. Naveen, if you have your audio and if you're able to speak up, feel free to actually, introduce yourself to the community here. It'll be great to hear, great to hear about you and get to know, what you're looking for from the community here.
Hi everyone, this is Naveen. Currently, I'm pursuing final year in computer science and engineering in IIT Dhanbad, India. So I did my internship with Arista Networks in 2018, and I've participated in Google Summer of Code as a student in 2017. And in 2019, I again participated in Google Summer of Code as a mentor. So through GSOC, I got to know about open source organizations, and then I got into cloud native organization, and there I got to know about Meshery, and I'm looking forward to contribute to Meshery, partly because I am more into infrastructure. So infrastructure and backend are the things that I like. So I want to contribute to that, and that is how I got into Meshery, and looking forward to contributing to it. So I've set up the I joined last day only, and I've set up the development environment, and will continue the work.
Excellent. That's fantastic. And thanks a lot for that introduction. Anybody else who's new? Okay, if there is nobody, let's get on to the topics. I know you guys already were talking about KubeCon, but is there anything else you guys want to talk about KubeCon before we go into the announcement section? And Lee, have you already covered the meetup information from last night?
We did. We covered the KubeCon and the. Actually, we made it through the announcements. We're just on the first topic, so the Meshery CTL perf, basically, the need to bring forth that command. I was hoping Mayank might be on a call. Manish is on the call, which is fantastic. There's between Nitin, Manish, and Naveen, some of you who don't necessarily have a full plate, so to speak, with respect to your focus on Meshery. In general, there's a significant topic about analyzing performance and Meshery's functionality there. Like case in point, Pratik Sahu, a community member here that I've mentioned a couple of times on the call. He's here in Austin. He was at last night's meetup. People were talking about the network service mesh and going over what kind of a mesh it is. There was a guy in the audience, raises his hand. Hey, well, what's the performance overhead of running the network service mesh? And Pratik and I got kind of a chuckle, because every single time, and Garish knows this very well, that every single time that there's a service mesh talk, someone asks that question about how do I know how much overhead there is, how much latency there is, and that's exactly why we built Meshery, actually exactly from that, for that and for a couple of other reasons. But Pratik got a chuckle because that was his first time, I think, being in person hearing it. And my point here, and the topic there, Meshery CTL perf, if you have Meshery CTL right now, you'll notice that Meshery CTL perf is not, that perf command it's not part of the CLI right now. We need to work as a community to bring forth that new command. The purpose of bringing forth that new command will be to let people do the performance testing, the performance benchmarking functionality of Meshery from the CLI. Today they can do that from the UI, and in the UI they get some nice graphs with statistical analysis of the performance of the load that's been generated and run against a service. But as we go to help Pratik and basically the rest of us do research and put out research about service mesh performance and help answer that question that everyone has every time they hear a service mesh talk, we need to provide a way to let people do the performance testing programmatically. And through this, so we need to expose that functionality in the CLI. And we would do it by creating a perf command. There's a design document for what that perf command looks like. and I'll put it into the meeting minutes right now. It has been called Meshery CTL test, and that's actually what it's called right now in the design doc. I think we probably consider that perf is a better command because there's more than just testing that people are going to want to do in terms of performance analysis. So I'll put the link to the design doc, but I called out Manish and Nitin and Naveen in specific because as you come into the community, there's an open and active area of need here. And so I'll try to engage you. I'll try to engage you guys inside of that design document, and we'll try to break down some of the work that's going on there and see if any of it strikes your fancy, if any of it is of interest to you. So, but that's some context and background as to why we need to bring forth that new command.
Makes sense. We do have, but so as of today, from what I can tell, if a local provider is chosen, people can run their load test from the terminal. So we just need to incorporate that capability into the Meshery CTL.
Right. Yeah. So actually, Garish, I think you'd be pleased to hear this. At last night's meetup, there was an attendee to the meetup that said, hey, I was using Meshery just yesterday, and it looks like it has this new login screen, and it gave me a laugh because there's a user there are users out there who are continually using Meshery, and they're even noticing as new features come out, and so I've been quick to tell him about some of the other work that the other contributors are working on, but it was I wish you guys are. I hope that happens to each of you. That just randomly someone comes up and says, "Oh, hey, I've been using your work, and it feels good."
Absolutely, yeah. I'm thrilled. Yeah, that's. I mean, this was something we have had questions about, and this is definitely great news. It's very exciting to know that people are monitoring the progress, which is fantastic. All right. Moving on to the next topic, and I hope you guys can still continue to see my screen. Lee, I'm not sure about this release 0.4. Was this release already completed last week?
It hasn't. We did talk about it in last week's meeting minutes, and we did not make that release this week. And as such, I think that there's now more to release. There's even more justification for this minor release. I think the ask here is if you've worked on part of the functionality that's being released, so Gungeon and the Helm charts, maybe Garish on and Nikhil on the provider UI. I know Nikhil on the user preferences. Raghav had worked on the user preferences some, so had Kush, or is starting to now. Nuno with the Docker app and things, and Garish on the SMPS compatibility. That if you can, we will want to please go back into the documentation, Meshery docs. If the functionality that you've provided that's about to be released, if it isn't in the docs, now is the time to make sure that we have that documented so that as people pick up that new release, they can understand what the new functionality.
Just concerning the Docker app.
Yep, I think
it will go anyway to the registry. I'm just waiting on the Docker app, let's say official release of the 0.9. Actually, that will be able to use what they call the CNAB to OCI, meaning the bundle to the open container image. And this means that we will be able to actually push from the command. I will demo it the next time, but we can push from the command. Once you build it, the Docker app, you can just simply push it to Docker Hub, let's say. So what we were speaking with Girish at some point in time was, I don't think I am in the layer 5 GitHub, so I cannot push it myself.
Yeah.
But I can simply write you quickly the comment, maybe over Slack. Yeah, so you can just do it. You can push the image, but you will need the 09 of Docker app, the exe. So right now, if you install Docker app normally, you will have the 0.8, which has not the, let's say, the pushing image feature. And 0.9 has a lot of breaking changes. So yeah, but it's nice.
So better.
So I will redemo it fully once the 09 is out officially also.
So yeah, so it sounds like better to get started on 0.9 from the get-go. Okay.
And afterwards, that's just the thinking now, but is Docker, okay, it should live somewhere, but I don't know how, I don't like the word, but like bloated, we want Meshery maybe to be like the core project. So is like Docker app part of this one, or can we just like port it out somehow and just become like I don't know, like a blog post and have the Docker app files, let's say, not directly inside. I mean, they are small, right? But suddenly we are starting to have maybe sub projects like Meshery CTL,
right?
Docker Meshery app, the Docker app, right? And maybe others. And suddenly, I don't know, I'm just feeling that, like me, sometimes when I arrive to other project, I'm just lost. I don't know what should I really run, if that makes sense.
It does make sense about something like Meshery CTL. Meshery CTL is a standalone binary that the source code for which is included in the main Meshery repository. In concept and in practice, it could be pulled out and put into its own repository. We haven't done that yet, mostly for a couple of reasons that we won't go through now. But that is, to your point, it's possible to pull that out as an example. And the Docker app is somewhat similar in nature, although of what's included for the Docker app in the main Meshery repository should just be more or less YAML, the CNAB bundle.
Exactly.
But then the to your point, like the images of the Docker app will be within Docker Hub.
And no, true. For me, it was more like these small, I don't know how you see them, but these small initiatives of the main Meshery. So what is Meshery now? When I do a git clone, I git clone Meshery. What am I cloning? Like you have the docs on the side. I think Meshery CTL is like typically like a good like candidate. Docker app, I don't say it. You're totally right. So it's like a Meshery main project, acting like the incubator, kind of like if we take again Cloud Native, and then when suddenly they reach like a good status, they can live on their own, still under the layer 5, of course, and then go to the other, let's say, sub project, I would say.
Yeah. Now I can maybe articulate characterize something a little more relevant, which is to your point about there being manifests for Meshery's Docker app, and those potentially living in their own repo. That a good example of how we've done similar things in the past have been the brew tap for brew, the brew-based install of Meshery CTL, and then the scoop bucket. Those two are separate repositories. They, in part, like the brew tap is a separate repo, and so it's a great question. Maybe something for us to think on a bit more about pulling that out. Part of the reason that the brew tap is a separate repo is that the way in which it is the way in which Brew, if everyone's not familiar with Brew, because everyone's not running a Mac operating system, I think it's homebrew.sh. It's a package manager for Mac OS based packages, apps. And so it's very convenient to be able to type something like brew install. And so people can, today they can do brew install Meshery CTL. And anyway, the way that package management system works is that you do need it. It works best if you've got a separate repository. So that's part of why brew is separate. The scoop bucket, I believe, is going to work in a very similar fashion. For those that are into Windows-based things, so certainly Nuno is, and I know there's a couple of others. I think Nikhil, you run a Windows machine. There's Garish has laid out, organized a bit of an initiative around creating a Scoop app. So Scoop, I think, is, and Nuno, maybe you can say, Scoop is somewhat similar to something like Chocolate.
Chocolatey, yeah.
Chocolatey. Anyone else?
I use Chocolatey normally.
Do you?
Not so much Scoop so far.
Anybody else using Windows on the call? Anybody else familiar with Scoop or Chocolatey?
We'll take that as a no.
Yeah, but those would be examples. So maybe hold that thought, Nuno, because there may be justification for pulling Docker app out separately.
Yeah, it was not actually Docker app, like maybe in the long term, but it was more like actually Meshery CTL or any future, let's say. I don't like to call them sub-project, but like when I git clone, I try to, let's say, try to understand what I git clone, like the kind of the Linux mentality where I pull I pull a repository, and this repository is part maybe of let's say layer 5, but I know that this particular repository represents something, right? One thing,
right?
Like Meshery CTL, Brew, Scoop, whatever. I know that it's related to Meshery, but each repository is kind of like checking, let's say, representing something. My question was more like, because we are all working, kind of, except for the doc persons maybe, but like on Meshery, like the repository Meshery, right? So I worked on Docker app, someone else is working on Meshery CTL, someone else is maybe working on the connectors, for example. So my point is more like, okay, what does, let's say, Meshery repo itself be or represent, and if it's like acting like a small incubator, so everyone go to Meshery, and then once we reach like a stage that they can live by their own, we can then move them out. And Meshery CTL was more my thinking, less the Docker app.
Got it. Yep. Yeah, another example is the Meshery docs site, which is right now stored inside of the Meshery repo. Part of the reason that we, yeah, yep. I guess maybe put a pin in that thought for the moment. We've discussed it a few different times. Part of what it comes down to is that there are certain requirements around GitHub stars and GitHub contributions that are key indicators of whether or not a project is healthy. And so people are pretty lazy when they go to look that up. They just go to the main repo and they look to see, well, how many commits are there? Are people being active? Are there stars on this? Oh, and the more split up that is, the less, the lower.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. So that's kind of funny because that from a totally non-technical perspective, that weighs in a bit on how many repos and.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Excellent, guys. I hope you guys saw the link to Scoop, I shared. It'll be nice to hear from one of the Windows users on their, their use of Scoop, because I mean the reason why we chose Scoop, I mean there is an obvious reason, which is the Go releaser, like we're using for releasing Meshery CTL, by default supports Brew and Scoop. So the Brew one, like we already are leveraging. Now the Scoop one, we haven't yet leveraged it, but I mean, so that is one of the reasons behind suggesting Scoop as the first option and not Chocolatey or something. Because at least the last time I checked, like out of the box, Go releaser supports Scoop. I haven't gotten back to check if it supports Chocolatey. So, but either ways, like I mean, if any one of them work well, then we can definitely think about it, because this would make the release process for Windows much easier. Also, like I mean, one of the good things with Brew, again, like I'm not sure about Scoop, is that the Brew actually helps with upgrading it. Like whenever we make a new release, and when people do an update and an upgrade, it kind of installs the new version automatically. And I think Brew also supports tying to a specific version. So in case if a new version has a bug, people can always choose a previous version or something. So it helps you with that life cycle there. While if Scoop does the same thing, then I think it'll be a worthwhile investment, given that we don't have to do much work in order to do it. I think we just need to create a new repo and configure Go Releaser to actually work with it, and it'll take care of it. That's pretty much how we got the Glue one to work. So it was very straightforward. So I presume that if Scoop is going to be that easy for us to set up, and it does, and it is indeed a good tool for managing, kind of libraries and they installed on a Windows machine, then I think it'll be a quick win there if we want to actually proceed there. So if one of you guys can take Scoop for a spin and get back to us, that would be very helpful.
Yeah,
All
I
right.
will try it definitely.
Awesome. That'll be wonderful. Yeah, given like a pro Microsoft user like you, would get back to us with feedback, that'll be very valuable.
Is it okay that I send my feedback on PowerPoint?
No, we only accept Microsoft Word.
Okay.
VJ, are you running Windows by chance? I'm curious as to whether or not you've used Chocolatey or Scoop. And you know what? I think VJ had to drop, so we'll skip that question.
Gotcha. All right. So looks like Nikhil has a question there. Was that already addressed before I joined the call? Performance. Cool. Nikhil, do you want to speak about the question here, and let's have a discussion around it?
Yes, for sure. Actually, recently Yaga was working on the settings performance section for the preference part, but kind of he has not responded for a while. So I pulled his PR and checked it, and I guess the error which Lisa was getting, I'm not getting that anymore. But the page, instead of opening the performance page, the preferences are not being saved. I guess the button is not doing anything, or it is disabled. I don't know. Just a second, I'll share my screen.
Yeah, I don't recall that I was seeing the preferences tab in the settings area.
Actually, sir, you were getting that error regarding that. Just for the missing page error, I guess. Just one.
Yeah. Well, or
so
yeah.
After Lisa updated his PR, so I changed it. Means merged his PR with the Ragos one, and I guess the page is opening now, but the button is not doing anything. Means even after changing the values.
So
I save the preferences. It doesn't.
Nikhil, one of the things is that So this was before I fixed that bug. One of the things was that I don't think, I mean, I'm not sure if Raga made any progress in the last week or two, but if he has not, like, I don't think he was able to finish it off. I don't think, the preferences are being persisted in the backend and in the Redux store, which is probably the reason why, like, you're not seeing any actions there. So, I mean, so my point is, like, probably, the connections have not been completed. So there's still a little more work to do there. Did that make sense, Nikhil?
Yes, sir, I got you. Actually, I thought he submitted his PR and he was quite sure about it, so I thought it's working. That's
Makes
it.
sense. Yeah, makes sense. I think there's a little more work left to be completed there.
Considering the backend part, actually, I was recently working on the user preferences thing, but I wasn't progressing on it much. So, Kush Trivedi, I guess someone, he recently joined the community. He took over that issue, and if he's good in solving that, then I guess it would be better if he can solve that. Meanwhile, I will try my best if I can solve this performance part. If not, then I will catch up with him and try to get some input.
Excellent. Nikhil, one related question. You had a similar situation with the user preferences page. That was for the anonymous preference, the anonymous thing, the statistics preference. Were you able to
Yes, sir.
complete that one?
Yes, sir.
Excellent. Cool.
And one more thing was, one issue was there for the deep linking of the pages. So I was just thinking, learning a few things regarding that. As we are using React, so deep learning is basically there. Deep linking is basically there when we use HTML, so that linking is there in between the pages. Just the same.
Nikhil, say that part again. So you said, oops. So Nikhil, say that part.
Yes.
You were saying.
Yes. Actually, there was a problem with my at home. That's it.
Okay.
I'm back. Yeah. So there was the issue with the deep linking. So I just made some research and found out that as we're using React in the backend, so basically in the case of deep linking, the page, the hash key that we're using, the ID, it searches in the page where the component or the part is. But as we are using the React, so it basically produces or generates the component as we move on that component. So when the link will search for that component, it won't find it.
Huh.
So the deep linking part will not work. So I was thinking about a workaround. I don't know if it will work or not. That we can use the path name that we are using in the URL, just like in other pages also, to get the output of the path name in the console. So on the path name, we can get the ID that we are passing, and according to that, we can save the tab value that we are using in this Meshery page. Like for the environment value, there is tab value is 0. For this one, there is tab value is 1. For this 2. For this 3. So we can pass the tab values in the URL like this and get the tab value from the URL using the path name, and then we can redirect. If that works around, I'm not sure. I was just thinking about it.
To me, that seems like a good idea to me. We would be more or less creating our own anchors, our own A tag anchors system to navigate between tabs. Others have done that in the past. That makes sense. I would suggest that as we do that, it'll be a better experience for sure. People will not get nearly as confused as they get redirected from one UI to the next. That would be really good. When you do that, if you would, it'll be both less fragile and more intuitive to the user if instead of 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, if we did, hashtag, pound sign perf, or whatever the names that are used in the name of the tabs, if we use something like that instead.
Actually, sir, the issue is that in the Meshery, in the React backend, we are using tab components for displaying these tab values. So every tab component has a tab value,
Numerical.
and it is being opened according to the tab values that are assigned to it.
Yeah.
So when I tried to assign an ID or any name to it, it didn't actually recognize the value. So that's why that's the issue. If any other thing, if G sir can help anything out, anything else, because I can't find anything else.
One other thing that you could do, yeah, that makes sense what you're saying. If you go back to the UI for a second, another thing you could do, I mean, like since you're having to do a little bit of JavaScript to create a little bit of our own navigation system, so to speak, that what you could do is, like on this tab in the performance tab of the content that's here, concurrent requests, queries per second, etc. You could just have a hidden element that is called tab name or whatever you want to make up, and then give it that.
Yeah, I got that. I tried that, but as I just said, that since when we open this page, the settings page, this part opens up. So the component of the performance part doesn't get built up when we open this page. So it doesn't find that component inside the performance section. That's why we are not able to navigate to that section, even after providing an anchor in ID.
Got it.
I tried in the local and I didn't find it. I thought that I was missing somewhere, but then I thought for a second that maybe that may be the reason.
If you, rather than putting that code into the module, the tabbed navigation module, if you were to pull that out and put it onto the settings page itself, hopefully that would be global. I mean, I'm speaking on things that I don't know in React, but I would.
Actually, I tried to put these names on this on the headings, that is the environment, service mesh, and metrics. So as these parts gets built up when we build the page, so they point out on me pointing out to that part, they come up, but inside that the components that are inside the service mesh, metrics, and all, they are not being pointed out.
Yeah, I guess what I mean is on the so ignoring the tab navigator, just on the settings page on the background there, if you had a small hash map or small array that says tab 0 equals, if you had a list of key values that tab 0 equals quote unquote environment, 1 equals service meshes, 2 equals metrics, and on the settings page itself, not within the module, not within the tabbed module, that you would then.
Correct. Actually, I didn't thought of that. I can think on that.
Okay.
Try that.
Cool. Could work.
Nikhil, can you go back to your UI? And do you by any chance have any adapters which you can connect to?
Yes, sure. Just a second. Actually, I don't have any adapters currently in my PC working.
That makes sense. But do you have anything running? Can you connect to it? I mean, there was a reason, like, I'm asking you to try out an adapter.
Just a second. Yeah. Sure. Kubernetes is connected, but the adapters are.
do you have any of the adapters running on your local?
No, so I guess I don't.
Okay, so given the time, let me tell you something. So you see the management sub icons on the left in the menu, in the nav menu. Oh, you now have, it looks like the adapters are now connected. Can you click? Okay,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. Okay, click on console or Istio on the left. Interesting. Nothing seems to be happening. Okay, I'll tell you the reason why I was suggesting. There you go. Yeah. Okay. So you look. Can you look at the URL? So if you look at the URL, so the way I had this to work is that all the management area is actually a single page. So the entire menu and all the sub menus are actually pretty much the same page. I mean, by page, I'm talking about like the React page. Now, within the page, of course, there is a component which actually loads this interface for a particular adapter. So, can you click on management on the left? So you see, okay, you see the difference, right? Now this one here, and if you click on Istio or something, they are pretty much the same thing. The way I differentiate them is actually by using query parameters on the page URL there.
Okay. Yeah.
So the reason why I suggested this was that now this thing, where we can have a query parameter or a hash, like the one you were suggesting, both would work. We just need to ensure that it would work. And the reason why I used a query parameter is that if you want to share a link to somebody, you can actually share the entire link and it will work. I'm not saying hash wouldn't work, but I thought query parameters are much more reliable in that one regard. So if you want to make people get to a particular tab, you can probably do a very similar thing I've done for management area, where I look for excuse me, I look for a query parameter, and based on the query parameter, I change the behavior of the page. So this is what I've done for management. So maybe you can borrow some of the ideas there and do it for the settings page tabs.
Oh, okay, sir. Okay. Actually, the part when it was not running, I was a bit into it. So, why wasn't it running? So I was just thinking, what if there is any workaround? So I didn't thought of that. That we already using a workaround in this management part. So now I will try to give a look on that, so that we can keep the persistent that using the same way in other places.
Absolutely, yeah, that'll be great.
Yeah, that's all from my side.
Excellent. Those were some very good questions, and I hope it was educational to the rest of the team as well. Now, is there anything else? We are pretty much at the top of the hour. Is there anything else you guys wanted to bring up? All right. So if not, one finishing remark here is that I wanted to share this one last thing, which is actually the issues that were opened and closed this week. I hope you guys can see my screen in the next second or two. So now this is again, kudos to all the team members here who have contributed and have helped us close a bunch of issues this week. But we still have quite some interesting issues to work on. So, and you can actually see the list of issues that were open this week. So kudos to all the community members who have actually helped us move forward. That's everything I have for you guys. Anything else before we take off, guys?
For my part, I'm going to try to help organize a collection of us around the study that's going on for measuring the overhead of a specific network function. So you can imagine if you're running a service mesh and you're telling it to do a lot of things, then naturally you would expect that there's more CPU invoked, there's more latency on the requests, and it's of interest to everyone that looks at a service mesh to understand, like, is there an order of magnitude difference in the cost of telling the service mesh to perform retries of a request versus telling it to perform redirection and like do a canary for a new release, or to enforce rate limiting, or any number of these network functions. We're trying to study the cost of each one of those, the overhead of each one of those. And there's a little bit of work to do. That's what I was describing earlier in the meeting as well. So I'm going to try to get some of us organized. We're going to try to break down what some of that work looks like, so that we can put up Pratik on stage and have him be successful in telling people specifically what that cost is. So
Excellent. Yeah, that's a great thing.
And that's it for me.
Excellent, guys. Have a wonderful weekend. See you guys next week.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, see you guys. Yeah, bye.